Good evening, everybody. This is the December 10th, 2024 Lower Makefield Township Park and Rec Board meeting. My name is Mike Brody. I am the vice chair, and I will be chairing the meeting tonight. On the phone with us currently is Kim Rock. And Monica Tierney is here as well. Just Kim and myself are here. We are expecting some other people who I will announce as they attend. In the meantime, we will get started with non-quorum based items. That's the roll call. Why don't we start with Mike? Do you have anything for the liaison report? Do you have anything that you want to say, or were you just stopping in? Cool. Thank you for being here. No, that's cool. Just checking in, just making sure. And then Monica, do you want to do the Veterans Parade ceremony, or do you want to do your stuff, your project stuff?
We can do, well, I'll just do a quick project update. I don't have much to update on. But just a quick update on Makefield Park Master Plan. There should be a draft document that I'll be sending to the Board of Supervisors and the Park Board soon. By the end of the year is the promise. So hopefully we see that. And so that's the update there. The rubberized surface is done at Memorial Park now. Beautiful. People are playing on it when it's not cold and rainy. So that's exciting. There's just a small part of that project left to do. That's painting the two insects, which may have to wait due to the weather getting colder. And there's a path that from the back of the park to a very short path from the back of the park to the bathroom. And that's just that accessibility piece that within our ADA transition plan that we're going to do. We're going to do that in-house. So that should be it. And then we're just all ready to go. We're looking at having some sort of grand opening in the spring for that in the basketball court at the same time, possibly like a 3v3 or basketball clinic on that day. And then Soft Surface said they would sponsor an event of some sort at the playground. So looking to have something fun, and I don't know when the date will be, but we're working on it. So those are the kind of bigger updates right now.
For the Memorial Park plan that you're going to give to us, would you expect that it would also go on the website, or would that be for board eyes only, or would that be for township resident eyes? It would be a draft, so it won't go up yet. That would go into us, and the next meeting, in theory, we'd be meeting to vote about it, or would it not be that quick of a turnaround?
To be honest, I'm not sure about the turnaround.
Very good. Right. Yeah. So it's really a draft just to get it out, just to see it.
Yeah.
Good for that. Cool.
Feedback. Yeah.
Very good. Kim, do you have anything on that?
I have not seen the surface yet, but now I'm going to make it a priority to go take a look when it's not raining.
Yeah.
Glad that it is raining. Yes. Do you want to just come up to the mic?
Mike Spillane's coming up.
Either one.
You probably just said.
There's no mic there, Claire.
Just probably turn it on.
Mike Spillane, 40 Black Rock Road, Makefield, and I'm Commissioner of Hazardous Athletic Association. We noticed that the dumpsters were removed, the two from Fred Allen and Makefield Park. Got a lot of Kiowa and stuff. I knew this was coming. Could we perhaps look to the township for help with some sort of temporary or trash removal set up for when we have big events?
Well, let me just address that. They were only removed for the season.
Oh.
We will be removing trash and waste bins, but we won't be removing dumpsters, but again, that's part of the space. So.
Right. Yeah. The dumpsters we removed, is there a future plans for that? I know
there's potential, not part of the zero waste plan right now, just recommendations down the future to see how things go.
Okay. Perfect.
Yeah, so we're just trying to save a little cost. So in the off season, we pull the dumpsters from some to not pay the monthly fee.
Very good. We could handle it, but the big events, there's a lot of, that's too much to people to take out. So, but I'm glad the dumpsters are there. Perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Dennis Wasaki has joined the meeting.
Hi, everyone. Sorry for being late.
I didn't.
Hello.
Doug's getting on his computer now. So, is it Kate? Is it Kate or Karen? Kathy, I'm sorry. Kathy, would you like to come up and tell us about veterans? Why don't we start with just the parade and ceremony? And then once Doug comes on, I'll politely interrupt you so we can establish a quorum and keep moving forward.
I'm Vice President of the Veterans Foundation and the Veterans Committee. And we had our 10th anniversary celebration of Veterans Monument on November 9th this year. I think it was the 18th anniversary of our parade. And it went fabulously. I really want to thank Monica and her team, and especially Kathy Howell, who went above and beyond planning and inviting the community, and in terms of participants and people watching the parade. And from our standpoint, I'm more involved at this point in time with the ceremony itself. But we were really pleased that we could bring back our sculptor, our sculptor, several members of our original committee, and a lot of people from the community stayed for the ceremony, which was really special. We had a lot of young people involved. Pennsbury High School's junior ROTC participated in the flag folding ceremony. We always have our local VFW and American Legion, the Pennsbury Marching Band, and Pennsbury Community Choir participate. And this year we had a flyover, which was arranged by one of our local veterans who has submitted her name for our Wall of Honor. She is a major and happened to be on maternity leave, but still coordinated this entire project. This cargo plane had flown from New England all the way down to us. I don't know where they were going after our parade, but precisely at 2 p.m. So it was really, really a wonderful event. So thanks again, and forward to continuing this every year. And just to kind of fill everyone in on what we're doing with the monument from our perspective. So we take names of local veterans and active duty military. So the person has to have lived in either Lower Makefield or Yardley at some point in their lives, and then they are entitled to have their names on. And they submit their names to me with proof of service and proof of residency. And each one of our plaques holds 90 names. So we're working on our 11th plaque at this point. So we have about 60 names and need another 30. Each one holds 90 names. So every 2 or 3 years, we create a plaque. And then people can still purchase bricks. So we add bricks to the pavers that support the monument. And our builder installs those at no charge, which is really nice. So people can continue to support us and donations for.
Is there a website where they, is there a website where they would find the bricks, or where they would see about that?
So our site is veteranssquare.org, veteransplural.org, and then there's a link on the township website as well.
Excellent. Thank you.
So, thanks, Kathy. And just to continue on that, our staff does the parade piece of things. We had more vendors than ever. We had horses and the parade this year, which we haven't had since I've been here for that. We had a lot of sponsorship this year, and I think in part because we didn't have community day sponsorship that we were asking. We were able to cover a lot more of the cost than we have previously. So our financial sponsors, we ended up with $9,500, and the total cost was $10,464. So we did a very good job with sponsors, almost covered the entire cost of the event, parade and ceremony. So really, really exciting news this year. So that being said, I think it was a great success. But I too would like to Kathy, Craig, for all your hard work and everything you do for this particular project. It was a great success. We ended up with some great weather, and the Veterans Square was packed.
That's awesome.
It was a really great day, so I'm very happy with it.
Since we had built them up.
It was very exciting, yeah. I agree, or just proud. Since I've been here, you've been here all 18 years, I have not. We did the toiletry collection too, which was a big deal. And so these action reports, the reason we write them is each year when we're planning, we take a look at last year's and report after action report, we kind of make decisions, well, this went well, this didn't go well. So these are very useful for us as we share them with you. So that's that. That's all we really have for that. Would you like us to, now the alcohol permitting discussion is just a discussion. It's not for board vote. Would you like me to?
Might as well start it. I mean, Doug's joining. We have, oh, there's Doug. Yeah, we can just continue. Hold on a second. Hey, Doug, can you hear me?
We can finish.
Doug Kraus is joining the meeting, so we have a quorum now.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, Doug. Thank you.
All right, sorry I'm late.
No, you're good. Thank you. So Doug, we actually got started. We were through everything that is, with the exception of the discussion topic on alcohol. We got through everything that didn't require a vote. We have up Kathy currently talking about Veteran Square, so we're going to continue along with that, and then we'll get back on schedule from the top afterwards.
Fine, I'll let you continue running. I'll be a participant.
Sounds good. Thanks, Doug. All right, so Monica, do you want to go over, would you ladies like to go over the Veteran Square updated site design?
Sure, I'm gonna share my screen real quick.
Thank you. Mute myself.
Okay, so this kind of was born out of the fact that there's a few things. We have the ADA transition plan out there that we've been working over time the last few years, which there were a lot of ADA enhancements to the Veterans Square. Also, the playground is outdated. We know that the playground needs to be replaced. We aren't looking to do any real glamorous playground, still keep it in pocket park, but still we feel there's a need for a playground. There was a master plan from before, which you see on your screen now. This was an architectural drawing, so it's much more pretty. That you're going to see next, so it's the updated plan, but we've already kind of not stuck to this plan. The playground that we installed is right where all of those trees are, and you know, there's other things that Kathy might be able to talk about, some of the other little changes, minor changes that have happened over time, but so we've kind of already not followed this plan. It doesn't necessarily go with the ADA model, the ADA transition discussions we've been having. So we decided, we did decide to go on a grant for this, and we ultimately got denied because we didn't really have engineer drawings. So we decided, the Board of Supervisors voted to go forward with doing engineer drawings or master plan for this site, considering all of the new things that have come up since 2015. And Kathy was involved in some of those initial discussions in 2022. And now we're just really wrapping up this project in hopes that we can potentially go for grants in the future. We are not budgeted for grants in 2025. However, it's something that we could move forward with in the future. It's a great grant package. It includes all the things, accessibility, veterans, playgrounds, a lot of things, some environmental considerations. I think it'd be a great grant package when it comes down to it. So the new engineer drawing, which isn't very different than this one. Sorry.
Would you apply for the whole package at one time?
It just depends on what type of funding we have. Ultimately today, it's just a look at the design overall and, you know, trying to get the buy-in with the board, hopefully, and then maybe get the buy-in with board of supervisors, putting this on the shelf for future. low-hanging fruit project. So, this one you see here is a little different. Rather than having like a stage per se, which was what was originally contemplated, there's a shade structure contemplated that we could potentially rent out in the future, just like some of our other pavilions in close proximity to the playground. You'll see that there's a loop that goes all the way around the park, making it completely accessible. That is a problem that we have at the Veterans Day Parade, is that we have vendors, and a lot of our handicapped veterans can't make it to the Veterans Service vendors to see them on Veterans Day. This year we did make a modification and did put them all along the street side paths. But that is something that we've had complaints about historically. You'll see some more trees, you'll see some swales, you'll see crosswalks contemplated as part of this project across Heacock Road and Edgewood Road to connect into our bike path system. So there's just a lot more consideration. Now you have to understand the original drawing was an architectural drawing, and now this is a more drawing with details. The parking is the same. You're going from 50 spots to 50 spots. So this drawing also has 50 spots, but you'll see that there's more ADA considerations. You can make it from the parking spots to any amenity that is here within this this park. So
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
So where you have the ADA parking spots and the diagonal lines to access your vehicle, what is the area between the parking lot, the walkway itself? It's those little black dots that are right.
that's labeled as a concrete pad. So we wanted to put some seating there for the ceremony. There's a pad there. So the ceremony was considered as we went through this process. The pavilion, some of the concerns originally, there were some other versions before we got to this, was that the pavilion would overtake the monument itself, and we don't want to do that. So you'll see in this drawing, it's a little bit smaller of a pavilion, and it's out of the way. It's not in direct line with the monument. And you'll also see that the playground is not in direct line with the monument. This would require us to move the water fountain. This also has an updated shed. We do have a shed there that's in really poor condition that we store a lot of our special events and maintenance equipment in. We would need the shed, but it isn't in great shape. So whether we decide to tackle this in phases or we decide to tackle it all as once as a grant project, we have something ready to dig into in the future. So does the board have any questions?
Well, are you hoping for, are you looking for a voter or something? Is there, or like, what do we?
Yeah, I mean, you can vote to recommend this design to the Board of Supervisors to formalize it.
And then does that mean it's getting funded, or is it more just to say like, just to have it on the shelf so that we like have it prepped and ready? So if we want to.
What it does mean is that we have it ready for when there's funding available. We never know, it's going to be a grant that comes out that's perfect for this. And we could just go and bring it to the Board of Supervisors and get applied for it.
Right, so it just gets it one step further so that it's just ready to go if that grant comes out. Very good. Doug?
Just a couple of questions, Monica. For the restroom, is that a single restroom or is it a men's and women's restroom?
I believe it's contemplated as a single restroom, but I'd have to confirm that for you. So that confirmation. We actually got back and forth whether we needed a restroom.
Sorry, you're hard to hear, Monica. You're not. I don't know if your mic's on or you're not talking into the mic. It's just hard to. Sorry. And then the second question. What's that?
Do you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear. So
You don't hear Monica though?
She's hard to hear. So sorry. The second question I had, so from the monument out to the path and Edgewood Road. So are those more pavers that go out that way?
1 second.
That already exists. Those pavers, they are pavers there already.
And are they the paver? They're already there that go out from the monument to the
Yes.
towards Edgewood? Okay, so they're already existing?
Mhm.
Okay. And they're ADA compliant, I guess?
Yes.
And then the third question is why why is the asphalt path why do we have one all the way back out to Edgewood and past the playground, given that's like open green space, and once we start putting asphalt, it kind of removes any opportunity to use that as another facility for people to just have activities there, because we do that and then it kind of eliminates any green space for it to be usable.
Well, it creates that walking model that, most parks strive for. Whether make a recommendation to remove it or not, but you'd be able to access the playground from either side by wheelchair or you have any mobility issues. That's really what we were going for. It's right along the tree line, so it really doesn't take up that much grassy space.
Is the playground in a different spot than it is currently? Like where it is currently is kind of more towards the monument, right? And so this is back into the right compared to where it is?
Yeah, it's where the pavilion is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And is there a plan for that separately? Like what's that going to consist of?
That would be part of the considerations when we finally decide to move forward with it. So that would have to be engineered project. Or that'd be similar to the process we went through this last year with the playground part.
Is this a lit parking lot or no?
No.
Okay.
People don't typically come here later in the day, right? That's more of a morning, afternoon kind of space.
Yeah, I don't know how much night activity is there. It's dark. But yeah, during the day, we see a lot of people visiting during the day, playgrounds. This would also make it a more active park, allowing a walk path all the way around. You have people who work in that little area can go there and start taking loops. You have playgrounds that parents can come to that are a little more quiet. And then we have a pavilion opportunity for potential parties, birthdays, or whatever. So it just kind of adds to the usage a little bit.
I like the pavilion aspect because it is a park that's not as busy or utilized. And so, to be able to have like a Cub Scout meeting or a Girl Scout meeting or a birthday party or something like that, somewhere other than the normal spaces is nice.
Yeah, I agree, because it gives us another added inventory and parking, right? Paved parking nearby. That's a plus for those outside of the normal activities here. But besides the playground, the pavilion, then just if people want to go there, it's really just open space or just visiting the monument. Not any other facilities planned, bocce ball or anything else that would provide. Again, that doesn't take up a lot of space. I'm not saying we're trying to cram a lot in here, but we have. Is there a need for anything else? Why we're thinking about best use of the space?
We don't have a band shell anywhere in town, I don't think.
That was going to be, wasn't that part of one of the Makefield drawings, right? To have a little amphitheater, right?
Yeah, she said that they removed the amphitheater and went to the pavilion instead.
Okay.
Kathy, I think you had something you wanted to ask.
To add that we as the Veterans Committee would like to see the pavilion and the walkway, because it's been part of our mission that we want to engage the community, and especially young people, and educate them about the sacrifices that veterans have made. So providing that connection for them to come have scout meetings, have family picnics, birthday parties, have people of all ages being able to take advantage of the walkway. It just will bring more people to appreciate the park, appreciate the monument. And it's in such a great center community too, right on Edgewood Road. It's really accessible to the majority of residents.
Are there
We
any
all-
plans to, obviously like there used to be a farmer's market, things like that. Any plans now that there's going to be, a nicer pavilion, bathroom, things like that to bring back those kinds of activities?
I mean, there's room to do a lot of things. I mean, in reality, I can't commit to one thing or another, but there's definitely room to bring back other activities there at the park. I mean, last year we did a couple of different small things as part of art in the park. There's definitely room to do more.
One thing, I can't quite tell what the number of feet is, but if you wanted to consider holding a farmer's market or vendors markets out grassy part in the center where it used to be, you probably want to make sure that there is enough space for cars to access it. They were going to come from the parking lot between the pavilion and the monument itself. Or maybe that's not something you want to happen. You want people to still park in the parking lot, the vendors as well.
Yeah, so part of the reason, Kim, we were trying to work with the farmer's market to move to a different location is they were driving on the grass and too close to the trees, so they ended up killing some of the trees, or we had some, so that was, you're right, that one of the issues we had was the cars driving on, if we were able to do something where people weren't driving on the grassy area, I think we might be more successful. There's room to do that. Just a matter of, turns out farmers market really needs to be able to lug their equipment out. So we were actually initially with the farmers market discussing other locations, and then they found Charlie Farm. So I don't know if they're still out there or not, but they were doing it at Charlie Farm.
I don't think that they're holding it. Woodside Church does use the park in the summertime for camps. They bring the children over. And just, I wanted to reiterate about Woodside too. They allow reciprocal use of the parking lot too. So as long as it's not Sunday morning, having a church service, for instance, one parade and a ceremony, they always allow people to park there. So if you did want to have some type of community event and you needed more parking, that's an option.
With the location of the pavilion in this drawing, which is different than the one we had seen on the previous page, Kathy, based on where this location is for the pavilion, I would assume based on your ceremony, it would not be utilized as part of the ceremony, the way it's kind of placed, and unless you have to sit some people under there for shade or rain, but I assume it's open on four sides. Is that correct, Monica, right?
Yeah, it'd be a standard.
Yeah, we would probably like to keep the format of the ceremony because we're able to have the participants up on the pad, and then we've been able to set up rows of chairs on the grass, so that way the focus stays on the monument. So, and Kevin and I actually prefer the location of this pavilion on your new plan, original plan, because we wanted to make sure that you can see the monument. The view is still clear from the front when you're on the Wood Road, but then as well. So I think the placement's very nice, being off to the side.
How high is the monument? This says 20 by 30. So how high is this pavilion relative to the height of the monument?
Kathy actually asked me that question at the beginning of the night. That's something we have to review. So if we do start moving forward, that what we were picking out we should have put that on.
Right, right. I think it would be nice to see an application. We look at them on height and the height of the pavilion to see what it actually looks like from the perspectives from the road and from the parking lot.
Is parking one way in, one way out, just the way the flow is, right? That's the way the arrows are, so I assume that's correct, right?
Yes, one way in, one way out.
Okay.
The reason for that, that Jim Majewski had recommended. And I can't remember what he said.
Is that because of the slanted parking is easier to pull into and then the less drastic turns?
Parking lot.
Yeah.
I think we were also able to put some tree items in there because of the slanted parking, which was part of the consideration.
Yeah.
On the other one, there was I know we have the existing sign in the corner at the intersection. I'm thinking the other drawings had another sign at the entrance. Is that still? I don't see that listed on here. Are we still thinking about adding another sign or just leaving? Right, there was a sign there and then the existing sign. Is there a plan to put another sign at the entrance or?
I don't think that's contemplated in the new plan. Nothing had happened, just, I don't think it was contemplated.
You would leave the existing sign.
Yeah, the existing sign was there, yeah, on the corner.
So no additional sign.
No additional sign.
Okay. Should there, and then, yeah, I guess you'll find a place to put your normal park signs, right? Or,
Yeah, like the rules and policies and all that signs. They would put throughout the park.
I don't have any other questions. Again, just if we thought there was any need to add anything else in there to, besides a playground for kids, like, since that's really focused on families with younger children, but knowing that we have a diverse population, is there anything else in there that's why I brought up bocce ball, other just to give somebody else some activity besides family with children. So
One thing that you could do with the new walkway is to add some exercise. You know, how they have the progressive equipment and go X number of feet and some sit-ups and you have different things. So that would appeal to older people, teens as well.
All of that could be added later though, right?
Yeah.
Like for purpose of this, we need, like, we really just need, like, if I'm understanding the request, we just need to have something relatively on paper so that it's sitting on the shelf if the right grant comes up.
Yes, I mean, the truth is, I was trying not to be overly glamorous with this request, just to be fiscally responsible, and we have a couple other park plans that have some of those other things in them too. But if there is something that the board feels adamant about adding, glad to consider it.
all right,
So I think the question is, does anybody really want to make a motion to like, do you have a huge desire to drastically change Veterans Square from what's being proposed here? And if not, then does somebody want to propose this so that we can have it available to us if the right opportunity comes around so that we don't have to approve this later on down the road?
So
So
my
essentially,
only,
it doesn't, so essentially we don't need a master plan. This is kind of like the concept of the master plan, Monica,
Yeah.
for lack of a better word.
How-
Dennis, you have-
I was just going to ask, like, what if something changes between now and the time a grant becomes available, and we had already pre-approved something like this? I'd like to at least have us, refresh or relook or revalidate at that time, because if it was a year from now, who knows what the needs would be. So
well, would anything preclude us? So if a year from now, we realized that Lower Makefield was the premier site for cornhole, and we wanted to build some cornhole courts on this property, and Veterans Square Committee completely supported it because the veterans are huge cornhole players, right? Could we then add that into this plan Or no, the fact that it's already been approved, but we haven't done anything with it, does that preclude us from making updates?
Makes it shelf ready. So if we decide that we're gonna go for a grant with this one, we're going for a grant with this one, but if the township should desire to add more as part of the project, we can always add more. There's nothing wrong with doing that.
And we can always update it in its shelf life, we can always update it within its shelf life.
Yes.
And some things, Michael, won't be permanent structures versus like temporary. Like, so if you wanted to put in that grassy knoll area or the grass area, you wanted to put temporary, cornhole pits in there and remove them, for seasonal, whatever.
Yeah.
I think a lot here is more permanent structures.
Yeah, I mean, I want to remind you too, that with the veteran ceremony as it is, the square is pretty full with participants and vendors, and not having the flexibility of putting things that are permanent in the grassy area also concerns me a little. I'm not sure if it concerns Kathy. But just thinking about that event as it is, it's already very, very crowded. So putting something up permanent in that grassy area would be a concern for that particular event. So something more flexible, like adding cornhole out there in the summer, seems more feasible right off the bat.
And I'm not actually trying to do that. I just was trying to engage a conversation.
I'd just like to go on record, though, to request that the Veterans Committee be a part of any future conversations when you choose the styling and discuss styling for the pavilion or for the playground, just so that it is in keeping with the design of the monument. We really designed the monument to be timeless because it honors veterans of the past, present, future. So we want to keep those things the same as any other amenities. Thank you.
So Monica, does this need to go to the Board of Supervisors, or are we just approving the preliminary plan just for submission? But if the grant comes up, we'll have to re-vote on it
Probably bring this to the Board of Supervisors for their review also. So if you recommend this to the board, then I would bring it to David. We talked about when this would go on the agenda.
even though we're not taking any action because it's not in the 2025 budget, right?
Having an approved plan makes it a lot easier to go for grants. Not saying that we would go without going back to the Board of Supervisors, but trying to schedule 2 board meetings ahead of a grant application might be more time consuming, and maybe we wouldn't make deadlines. So overall concept, if you guys like this, we would recommend it. You would recommend it to the board, and then the board would then decide whether they like this design. Then we keep it ready for potential grant opportunities.
Would this then be prioritizing this project in front of other ones if a grant becomes available?
Not necessarily, because it just depends on what grant does become available. You know, if it's something that prioritizes, veterans or ADA transition, this might be more of a top shelf. But if there's, say, we finish the Makefield Park study and we start digging into that, and the grant seems more favorable to that project, we'd probably go for that.
And would that come back to the board regardless to discuss those, like?
Maybe not ahead of that application, but definitely ahead of the implementation.
Anybody have any questions?
One more question for Monica. So is it possible that if this was approved at this point, or if we recommended this going to the supervisors for approval and it's sitting on the shelf and this, a grant becomes available, is it possible, and I'm not saying that we would initiate it, but is it possible that in the final submission for the grant application of the grant, this design could change? And if so, would we be notified?
Ahead of the grant application?
Can't hear you.
Is that, are you talking about ahead of the grant application?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I keep hearing just from where I'm sitting is the Park and Rec Board is concerned that we're kind of approving something well ahead of time. from when it's going to be approved. And then what I'm kind of hearing from the Veterans Committee is this is what they want at the park. So they would like this to be approved because this is what they're looking for at the park. And all those other things that we're talking about, I don't get the impression from the Veterans Committee that, like, it's not going to be a soccer field. It's not going to be a baseball field. Seasonal cornhole might work there, but that's not really what we're talking about either. You do want the walkway because that serves the purpose of what the Veterans Committee wants for their, what they consider to be their park. So I think really just the question is, you know, like if we support the fact that the Veterans Park is the Veteran Committee's park, then, I mean, in my opinion, we should probably stop talking about it and approve it. I will just raise what I'll consider like the elephant in the room for me is like parks for everyone, you know, like, and I let me preface this with, I wholeheartedly think this should be the Veterans Park and whatever you guys want, like I personally support. So, if nobody else is going to make the motion, I'll make the motion and see where it falls. But, so that's strongly my opinion. But again, when we talk about, you know, play for everyone, and we're talking about things like Macclesfield and some of the things that were being proposed, we have to remember that there are parks that are geared towards certain communities, and that's okay. And we can kind of lock that park in for that community. And if we have enough parks that are locked in for certain communities, there's still play for everybody. So.
Right. The nice thing about the Veterans Square Park is its location. As I said, it's in the center of our township, so it's accessible for many. And even though the focus is a veterans monument, it's always been the Veterans Committee's goal to have it used by all ages.
Absolutely.
As I said before, we really want children to be involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Michael, it's not necessarily the veterans, it's not their park, right? It's the township's park, which the focus is on the memorial is there, but no different than 9/11 or Garden of Reflection. We've incorporated multiple activities or facilities that encompass some, you know, things for all of the townships. So just want to be mindful that again, when we're spending dollars, whatever it may come to, that, you know, the focus still is on the Veterans Square and the Veterans Memorial, but anything else we put in there is not singular in focus, right? So
That's fair.
So just a reminder, this park is quite small. So when you're comparing it to Memorial Park, the acreage, 3 acres versus 90 acres is quite a difference. So there's only, you know, this still does fit the play for all model. It's accessible.
Yep.
There's pavilion rentals that can be used for anybody. There's a walking path that could be used for anybody. There's a playground that's accessible to anybody. And then we also have the veterans theme park. So it does still fit the play for all model. We aren't going to be able to fit every single type of recreation to every single park, but it does fit within current.
But I don't think, I think we didn't answer Dennis's question, but if we approve this design today and you notify us and say, hey, a grant comes up in February, before you submit, will we have an opportunity one last time to make any amendments or changes based on whatever the condition may be prior to submission? Or if we approve this as today, that's what's going to get submitted to any grant?
We have to remember, we might not get the grant. We're applying for a grant. If we apply for a grant, we might just go for a grant with this as it is. But say we have a match. The match could be us working on other little amenities that you might see within that grassy area. It doesn't necessarily have to be specifically that, you know, we could spend money as part of the project as a township to add any other amenities.
So if we wanted to put a few benches along that asphalt path, so people are walking and they want to sit and just chill out, like we can add things to that or whatever. It's not, this is it, and that's all we can do, right?
Yeah, I mean, we still have the bench donation plan. So people will donate every year. This year we had somewhere into 4 to 6 benches that we installed throughout the park. So there are opportunities there too. People could donate benches. We could put benches around the path. We could put benches near the playground. There are some donated benches already out at Veterans Square that we might have to for this project should we start moving on it.
I can make a motion to approve the Veteran Square Park. I don't know what we're calling it, Veteran Square Park.
Design.
Design plans as presented today. The only ask again is if that restroom's a dual restroom or singular restroom.
If I remember correctly, it was simply a singular closet.
Okay. Yeah, it says restroom, not restroom. So again, I'll make a motion to approve the Veterans Square Park design drawings as presented today, December 10th, 2024.
A second.
I'll second that.
Anything else? Dennis, anything on your mind you want to say?
Yes, the other scenario, Doug, thank you for trying to clarify that. But so this gets submitted, it's sitting on the shelf. There's a grant opportunity. Someone decides, we're better off going without the pavilion. Would that change, which is significant, come back to the Park and Rec Board to review a revised plan that would be without a pavilion in this hypothetical example?
Design in phases, so maybe the initial grant. But
I just would like to make sure that there's more eyes and ears looking at what the design submissions are, so we don't end up with a situation like we did with the pickleball courts.
Right, I understand what you're concerned.
Because this will go to the board. They might change it. Then again, it's got to go back, and then it's got to come back to us again, right? So. I'm in agreement with that. I agree with Dennis. Is like before any submission, we just want to make sure it doesn't bypass us.
Okay.
So do you want to include that in your recommendation?
I mean, is there a way to say that?
Just to say, or is that just something that?
I wouldn't say before submission of a grant, but before implementation of a grant. I would say, I would probably say that. Because applying for a grant is hit or miss, right? We may or may not get any grant. A grant application would ultimately be shared with the board. But that's not implementation. We don't know if we're going to get the grant or not. So get the grant, then we'll be discussing implementation or any type of small minor scope changes, or if we would like to add anything else at that time within budgetary time. So during the design phase and implementation phase, I would say you'd like that to come back to the park board.
So there's been a motion, there's been a second. We have to have an amended motion. I don't know what the rules of order are here, but.
That we just need to.
We want to revise it to say, with the caveat that before anything is implemented, we take a final look.
I'll amend my motion to require any final designs be reviewed by the park board prior to implementation.
And Kim, do you accept that revision?
Yes.
All right, so that's seconded. Any comment by the board? Any comment by the public? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's 4-0.
Thank you. And then, the other thing I have to talk to you about today is the potential of alcohol permitting in the parks. This comes from, thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy.
thank you to all of you for what you're doing too.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. Thank you for that. Hi, Kevin, if you're watching.
The reason I'm bringing up alcohol permitting in the park started from the desire to potentially do things like beer gardens or farm to table events or type of events in the park. And recently I just had a request to do a dinner type black and white event fundraiser for hunger in the parks. And that would, they're hoping that they could serve alcohol as part of that to help with the fundraiser. And of course, we have no mechanism to do so. So I did do a national outreach in the forum. And I know I shared some very raw information with you all, but as you can see, everybody does it differently, who does it. So I guess I'm kind of looking for some guidance, or if there's interest from the board before I start moving forward with anything, to bring back to you. What are your thoughts about doing events, even if it's just events with alcohol in them, or permitting alcohol at certain things? What are your thoughts on doing something like that initially?
I'd be curious to hear what some of the other things besides events would consist of.
Sure. To be honest, I wasn't considering that a goal until I looked at that feedback that I sent you in your packet. People allow it in everything but youth sports. There are people who allow it for pavilion rentals. There are communities who it's just free willy and you can just have alcohol at any time as long as you're within so many feet of a roadway. I mean, there's really so many different provisions, and I figure if we're going down this path, I would like to give you guys all of the information, and maybe you need to digest it a little bit, and you can send me an email, and then we can come back to it. Initially, I started this quest simply because I know beer gardens are very popular. They're a great motivator for park systems. It hits a demographic that we don't necessarily hit, maybe that like the early 20s, not too early, 20s, young 30s, demographic that we don't have too many programs for. So there are a lot of our neighboring communities who are doing these things already, and they're doing well and successfully. So that's kind of where it started. And then I had this new request come in. I said, let me just have this conversation with the board and see what you guys think about it in the first place, and maybe what your kind of get your temperature, I guess, on.
I know some of the materials you shared, but I don't think any of it was. I didn't see anything from local municipalities. Was there anything in there that was local?
Bucks County does allow.
Yeah, that's Bucks County. I meant townships like Northampton, Newtown.
Well,
I didn't see any that were
Middletown
local.
does. I did, that form is very helpful because you get a lot more hits. A lot of times when you do local, you don't necessarily get as much information, but I will ask Middletown, because they already do beer garden. And then at our next Bucks County meeting, I'll ask the county at large who does alcohol and get more of their information.
And then alcohol is alcohol, whether it's beer, wine, or spirits, right? There's not any delineation between one or the, like if it's alcohol, or does it mean we could limit to just beer, wine, or when we say alcohol, it's everything?
We can limit however we want. This is something we're starting from scratch. We can take baby steps. We can just start with certain provisions and see how it goes. The world is your oyster. So we just have to decide which direction we want to go in.
Now, is the permit something that, so let's say someone's renting a pavilion and they're going to have a, birthday party, then that's like an add-on that they get a separate permit for that?
Yeah, it would be something like an add-on to their party. They would also need extra liability insurance. That's been something that seems to be more of a challenge with some of the other agencies. As I talk to them, there's a lot more, oversight with that. So they were glad they were charging the fee. It's kind of the feedback that I got. But yeah, it is an additional add-on.
So does this become something that's only accessible for corporations who are or corporations or big nonprofits that are almost like putting on events and not really like is it going to be cost effective for me to have my son's birthday there and get a liquor license so I can have 2 cases of beer?
I mean, the world is your oyster, so if you wanna do extra liquor license for kids' parties, a lot of, you see the municipalities, a lot of them do it.
And is that expensive? Like, what's a ballpark
I
of that?
think it's all about $1 being an extra $100, and our pavilion rentals aren't that very expensive.
Yeah,
so,
that's reasonable. Yeah.
Um,
When you said insurance and stuff, I started thinking like hundreds, thousands.
No.
You know.
You'd have to add like $1 million liability policy, rider. So you'd have to ensure that the township's insured if case something happens on property, right?
I didn't read through the permits, Monica, but I would assume that the permitting would put responsibility for the applicant, so that, like in the case of Brody's having a birthday party there, kids party with beer, that he would keep the kids, underage people, from drinking the beer.
Yes, it would be on the applicant to monitor, the age.
And those might be the ones where we might be a little bit more restrictive on the beginning until we kind of walk before we run, where you might have something more like a beer fest or some other scenario. If you imagine going back to, our community day and one of the trucks was a beer truck, or there was something like that where you'd have to get a wristband so that, again, you don't always have 100% control because someone can walk away with a beer with a wristband and easily hand it to somebody that's not. But you can do like where the Yardley Beef Fest, you got to sell tickets. It's a confined area. Like those are kind of events that we don't do that we could do, or, have beer trucks or do a beer fest of our own, which we just don't have that capability. Or again, Monica, I guess if you're considering this, somebody could rent out the community center and have a more, a function that was allowed to have a bartender and serve alcohol, right? So
I haven't really considered it for the community center. To be honest, my initial was just doing events and possibly, maybe someone from the outside who has like an LLC or a nonprofit who wanted to do an event, and that way if they could use their LLC insurance, it's a little easier than talking about individual residents. But I honestly didn't know for sure the board was gonna be, so, I kind of put everything in front of you and volunteer what you're thinking.
Monica, are we the first ones you're bouncing this off of, or have you talked to the chief or the township lawyer?
Well, chief is retiring, so I probably will have to go to the deputy chief and have an initial discussion with him. So no, I have not had that discussion. I wanted to see what your feeling was first. And then I'll have that, but they would definitely have to be involved in the process. I did talk to the township manager about it, before I did bring it to you.
And just in general terms, I'm not opposed to considering something like this. I think it'd have to have the obvious safeguards included. I think it's people's liberties. I think the less we can impose restrictions on people, the better. But I think it has to. This one is kind of it's riding the edge of potential danger. So I think it has to be done properly if we decide to do it. But I'm not opposed to considering that.
yeah, I'm definitely in the camp of walk before we run scenario where you're issuing a total blanket policy where versus, to your point, Monica, it's, is there a way to do something and call it a test before we, say it's open to everybody, like, hey, we're going to, to your point, do we find somebody who's an expert in running? I'm just using the beer fest as an example, but some function or an event where, again, it's something we can sponsor and or allow permitted before you go to the point where everybody's calling up and say, hey, I want to run a dinner function and I want to serve a farm to table alcohol and I want to go do it at Memorial Park or Makefield. I've seen weddings where they do they'll do a bridal shower, or a girl will do a bachelor. I've started this at the beach, and all of a sudden they're setting up. There's wedding planners or bachelorette party planners, and they'll set up a whole dinner function just like that. They'll have a farm to table. I saw them setting up on the beach in Ocean City, which is a dry town, but they were setting up anyway. I don't know how they were getting around it, if they just were bringing their own booze and just hoping nobody was showing up. But I think if we go that route, we have to go with somebody that has some experience first to kind of make sure it goes off right, versus just handing out permits to somebody that wants to run a dinner function and they like our site. And it's really about the site versus them having any experience doing anything.
Okay. So I guess based on this feedback, taking baby steps seems like the way that you all would like to go. And I could write something up. I don't know that you definitely want to go that way, but I could write something up and try to listen to what you said and
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say for me that I guess I'll say that slow seems prudent. But as I say that, I also just feel that like this could really give us some good opportunities. And I'm not suggesting turning like the town into like a big open bar outside and everything. But we have talked about like finding other ways to use space that we have. When I think of the pool, tennis court, basketball court area, it's a very lit area that doesn't have many houses behind it and stuff like that. Again, because I do play a lot of cornhole, I'm used to there's many breweries locally that just come to, so we played at Charlin Farms, which is right on Stony Hill Road, where literally, just playing in a lit parking lot. The brewery, sorry, brewery people, friends, I forget the name of the brewery, but a brewery came, they set up a tent, then they ran IDs and you paid with your credit card. And, it's always been very organized. The vault does the same thing. So I just see like this could open up opportunities where you can now have like leagues or something like that. There are different opportunities. To whatever extent, if you're serving alcohol, I would think you'd still have the same sort of I'll call it a restaurant license, but I feel like we have some sort of cook license requirement or something like that.
yeah.
So there could be some degree of a similar sort of requirement, I would think.
Yeah, they have to have some kind of license. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I mean, honestly,
I don't think it's a bad idea to start slow, but at the same time, I guess I'm just recognizing that there's a lot of different ways that like it would be interesting applications of the rule.
And different than a BYOB, meaning that, hey, you're having a cornhole, you can't just bring a cooler or 6-pack of beer for your drinking enjoyment. That's different, right? We're not sanctioning that, right? So
Yeah, I feel like it's more tailored to the, like you said, the LLCs and the businesses who are gonna say, let's do a pop-up beer garden this weekend, or let's do a festival or a, black and white dinner or whatever it's called, as opposed to just starting with anyone who wants it could apply for a license.
yeah. I mean, that's kind of, well, it's not exactly similar to, the community center use, we don't do, like private rentals, we do things that are more community driven. If we focus on community driven type programs and events run by nonprofits and LLCs, does the board think that they'd agree to that? To say we have to bring in someone who's licensed or someone who can distribute beer or wine or whatever you feel.
Okay, you need anything else from us?
Yeah. Well, I think the majority of the board on the call agrees with you, so I would go with that. But I would just say that I personally want to agree with that. I don't like the idea of like we're gonna allow ourselves to permit alcohol, but only if you're a corporation or like a big company or a big organization.
To start, right?
Residents in our town couldn't do it.
Like the goal would be eventually everyone could, but if we're doing baby steps, you start with the companies.
Really nonprofits.
Yeah.
Either way, honestly, I can. I'll start trying to pull something together.
No matter what, we have to.
Please.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll do like a outreach to the local communities and see how they do things, and we'll go from there.
That makes sense.
Does that sound good?
Because I expect the Board of Supervisors would want to see an several examples of what would be approved initially versus what we wouldn't do, right?
I can start including this in our weekly updates. Anything that I'm working on in this, that way, as the process is going, you guys can send back individual emails and let me know what you're thinking, and that way, when I come back to the board, it'll be, I'll have feedback from you all individually. Does that sound good?
Sounds good to me.
Okay.
Sounds good.
If we can just do a couple things that we missed earlier. We received in our packets November 12th, 2024 board meeting minutes. Did anybody have any comments or updates or anything for the meeting minutes from last month?
Okay.
If not, can I get a motion to accept those minutes?
I'll make the motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second.
I have a second. So Dennis made the motion to accept November 12th, 2024 minutes. Doug Cross seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
4-0. We did minutes. We did liaison. Does anybody have anything else they'd like to speak about? I'd like to wish you all a happy holiday season. It's been a wonderful year working with you yet again.
Yeah, same to everybody.
Thank you. Yes, everybody.
Be safe.
Thank you. Motion to
Be
adjourn.
merry.
Thanks, Mike.
Cool. Bye, everybody. We're adjourned. Bye-bye.
Yeah,